That was cool. Okay. Um, so we'll rehash bits and pieces of that, but this is actually this is the fun part, at least for me. I mean, this is what we talked about on Tuesday. This is the do part, and I probably wasn't the best student in high school and college because I couldn't sit in a classroom. I just I like to do things. So, and 28 years in the business, I have done a lot of things. Some of them worked and some of them have not worked, and that's just kind of part of life. But so last time we talked about the importance of building and maintaining and cultivating relationships as it relates to building a strong foundation and building a long-term business. And we also talked a little bit about your short game and your long game, and this is long game kind of stuff. I mean, there's definitely times where there's short payoffs. You do something or you put something out there for your sphere of influence and it pays off right away. But this is really the foundation of that you're going to build on and go back to repeatedly. So and the purpose of doing this is to build a business that thrives on repeat and referral business. So I think, as we mentioned on Tuesday, my lofty goal is that 100% of my business would be past clients and referrals. And it's a number that we track consistently with every deal, and we publicize it to my clients in our monthly or bi-monthly newsletter. And I've hit as high as 94% in recent years. The industry average is about 42 or 43%. So, it's a lofty goal. I think for me, anyhow, it refocuses how I communicate and interact with my clients. I'm trying to build relationships rather than just get paper signed. This is the part of the business that you've probably heard the saying, it takes money to make money. And this is that part. This is where you've got to make an investment in energy, and time, and thoughtfulness, and money. Doesn't mean you're going to break the bank. I do what I do very, very affordably. So this is the investment. These are the seeds that you'll plant. These are the seeds you'll water and nurture. This is the investment you're going to make when adding value to people's lives. And we'll talk about things we do to add value. On your worksheet, you've got why a relational approach versus a transactional. We talked a little bit about this the other day. Transactional approach, not that it's bad, it's just hard to maintain that. For instance, if an agent is buying leads or dependent upon Zillow for all their leads and converting those leads, when Zillow's business plan changes, when they change the program, that agent's entire business just changed. If Zillow sells out to another company or gets bought out and they change their platform, that agent who's heavily or solely dependent upon that, their business just changed. So transactional really refers to more of just kind of generating leads, getting leads, working through leads, getting them closed, and just kind of moving on to the next deal. It's the agents that it's a numbers game, and it's not to say that it's bad. It's just what I have found from my experience. It's kind of an up and down thing, and it's expensive. There are agents locally that spend thousands of dollars a month just generating leads and working through that pile of leads, and that's a lot of busy work. So relational, I changed my business model probably 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. And within a short amount of time, I can show you the numbers. We doubled our business going with a relational approach and be very intent about it. So relationship is rewarding because it's personal. It's built on trust. It's built on confidence. Again, like I said, the way you interact with your clients is completely different. New business is the most expensive business to create. So for me to generate, so like this week, I've got to talk to somebody today who's a referral from, it's the mother of a past client. Last week, actually, I have a young couple that closed on their first house. Now his parents are going to downsize, and that was a referral. If I had to go out and generate those 2 clients from scratch, either I'd have to invest heavily in a third-party source or do a lot of mail. It's a lot of busy work, and it's a lot of expensive work. So setting the groundwork to generate referrals and repeat business really pays off in the end. So relationships, when done correctly, just create raving fans, and raving fans create the best marketing and the best referrals. So this next week or 2 weeks from now, we're delivering mums to all the people on my A+ and A list. Those people will in turn post information on Facebook and pictures and thank yous and things like that. So it's just free marketing that I get. Tiffany asked how I generated my first lead. So when I started 28 years ago, I had lived in Rochester like 6 months. I would go out and knock on doors and do all kinds of silly things. But kind of like we talked about Monday, when you first start, your short game, you're just trying to survive and thrive. And I would do open houses like crazy. I knocked on doors of expired listings. I worked for sale by owners. I talked to people at church. So you did just about anything. I ran ads in the Penny Saver. There was a book called The Harmon Homes then. So yeah, getting started and getting a foothold is the challenge. And then building on that. So relational versus transactional, it's creative, and I really like the creative part. I like the fun part. So again, this next week we're picking up, I've done it every year the last 5 or 6 years, 150 mums. We get those from a local greenhouse, and then we deliver those to our best clients who refer us the most or we have the best relationships with. So planning. So hope is not a strategy. You can't sit there and hope that tomorrow is better or hope for a lead shows up. Having goals is good, but still not a strategy. Having a plan is a strategy. And that's what we're going to work on today. Is we're going to work on your plan for the rest of this year. And we're going to work on setting up your plan for 2021. And it just comes back to the old saying of plan your work and then work your plan. So if you come into my office in Brighton, behind the door we have a big, it's probably 2 foot by 3 foot calendar for 2020. And it's writable, and you can erase it and rewrite with the marker thing. So, but we sit there in September, and we're doing it now. We had a meeting yesterday, my assistant and my transaction coordinator, and we're talking about 2021 already. So we're already throwing things at the calendar. We'll change a few things we did this year for 2021, but we're going to have a whole plan for next year already set by the end of this month. So we know exactly what we're doing, and we just follow that plan. 2020 was unusual because COVID derailed a couple things that we normally do. And those are some of the adjustments we talked through yesterday in our team meeting. So the 4 Ps: people, planning, personal, and purposeful. And the first one is the people, or your sphere. This is the database. This is what we said the other day. This is your list of relationships. I spoke on the phone yesterday or the day before with an agent who started within the last year. And she's like, well, I only have 5 or 6 closings. I only have, 10 or 20 people on my sphere list. And I said, that's enough. I mean, that's just enough to get started. Those 20 people don't know that you only have 20 people. And you really have to look at those relationships and, figure out who's most likely to refer you. I mean, when we have a closing or a new client that's just closed or listed, we treat them like an A+, and we'll get to that in a second, defining your and sorting out your sphere list. So we start everybody at the A plus, and then they kind of like it's sifting through. It's a sifting process to see how they fall out and where they eventually land. So your sphere, it's your friends, it's your relatives, it's your current clients, it's your future clients. Yesterday I was showing a house to a new buyer, a client, and they were a referral, but they brought their parents because we were looking at a house for a second time. And, I immediately, start talking to the parents. Someday they're going to sell their house, just trying to build a relationship. And if I figure out where they live, then I'll put them on my mailing list eventually. Anyone you have a great interaction with, clients, parents, friends, just anybody that you think would refer you or you want to refer you or do business with. So I categorize, and you can do 1, 2, 3, 4. I adopted Brian Buffini's system, and I rate my everybody that's in my database, and my contact manager is rated either an A plus. A plus is that's my smallest group of people, but those are people who refer me multiple, over and over. They're my raving fans. The people I can count on for, anywhere from 2 to 6 deals a year from. They're people that maybe I've done multiple transactions with. I've got an investor. I've, worked with their parents, and they referred me to their relatives, and they buy an investment property once every 9 to 12 months. I take very good care of them. I maintain that relationship. So A plus is my best people. And then anybody who's closed recently where the transaction went really well. And I've asked for them to write a referral or a testimonial on Zillow, and they've done that. I instantly adopt them as an A plus. A are people that you have great relationships with. They may have used you a couple times or referred you a couple times, not as frequently as your A plus people, but they're great relationships. You want to, maintain them. B, people that would refer you kind of if they knew how, it was a good transaction. They may be a little sheepish or shy. Somebody definitely worth nurturing. And C's. C's are the people I'm kind of curious to see what they're going to do. It's things went well. Some people, no matter how much they like or love you or how good of a job you did, just aren't going to be referrers. But they may be somebody I sold a house to. I'm hoping I can sell that house when they move on, so I want to keep them on my list. I'm pretty confident they would call me. And then in the back of my mind, I'm always trying to get the C people moved up the ladder. So I had a closing 2 years ago. They started out as an A plus. They moved down to like a B and then a C. And then this year I got two referrals that panned out, one that didn't. So they became an A plus. They went from a C back to an A plus. Next week when we deliver mums, they'll get one, kind of thing. So you want to sort through that list. Brian Buffini also has a D, and D simply stands for delete. There's just some people, unfortunately, as good of an agent you are, but people being people, things don't always go fantastic, and there's some people you just don't want to talk to again. So I showed a house yesterday. Never met the folks before, but talked to them on the phone and via email, showed them a house, and I kind of hope they don't call me. So it's not that they're bad people, it's just we see things differently and don't mesh. But that's a luxury I have of being in the business so long. So, and that list is also very fluid. Like I mentioned, I'm kind of moving people around. So this being September, we're in our planning phase for 2021. I had my assistant print out the list of the 500 people or 550 on our list, and I'm sorting through that list and moving some people up and some people down. So we kind of change and adjust that based on, how people are acting or reacting. Planning, the second P. Use your calendar. I've got to write things down. I was an agent for a long time that would say, well, that's a great idea. I want to do that. I would never write it down, or I put it in my notebook and forget about it. We went to the calendar on the wall, system. It's not the nicest piece of artwork, but it's the most productive piece of artwork. It generates far more money than it cost me. I think my assistant gets those every year at Amazon. And we use it and we refer to it, and I'm just a person. I've got to see it. I've got to see what's coming up. You've got to be deliberate and measured. What that means is, we pick our spacing out on what we're doing. So we're doing something every couple months. We're kind of careful not to overload people so that they feel like they're getting junk from us. And we try to keep it frequent enough where we're relevant or hit specific times of the year. So, like I said, we've got our mums coming up to our best people. The next thing, and we'll talk about it, is Thanksgiving cards. That's one of our big ones. Then we do a beginning of the year kind of year, we look back at 2020 in terms of how many houses we sold. That goes out in our newsletter, and we kick off the new year and we're off and running. Planning allows you to be efficient for budgeting purposes. So we have always mailed out movie tickets to our A+ people in February, which COVID blew up this year. So, and it's probably my fault. We mailed out movie tickets. Everybody got them, and then COVID became a thing, and movie theaters shut down. So still on my desk in Brighton are a bunch of movie tickets that are, well, what do you do with them? But so that we're going to change. But we have a budget. We know how much that cost, and we'll replace it with something similar. We know how much every big thing we're going to do. We usually do 3 or 4 big things a year. We know what that expense is, and allows us to budget and plan for that. Planning allows you to prepare, allows you to be creative, allows you to make adjustments. So again, this is September. We're already talking about what we're going to be doing in February. We already know what we're doing in March. We already know what we're doing. And again, talking about the movie tickets, we know we've got to make that adjustment. We can't count on the fact that movie theaters are going to open or not ever again, kind of thing. So we're making that adjustment, and I asked everybody, my transaction coordinator, my assistant, and we brainstormed a couple ideas, and I said, let's revisit it in our next meeting in a couple weeks and see what we come up with. And again, allows you to put a lot of thought into what we're doing next year. Even though we repeat some of the same things, we may change some of those too and make adjustments. We can add people, we can take people off, kind of thing. Planning allows you to stay ahead of the process. So again, COVID-19, perfect example this year. We had our plans all laid out. We saw what was happening. We made an instant adjustment to our newsletter that went out immediately after COVID. So we adjusted the material that we were planning on sending out, but we knew that was coming in advance. So it wasn't like the market changed and all of a sudden we had no clue. We just simply changed a few things we were doing. Personal. Provide items or information of value. This is probably one of the most important pieces. Brian Buffini's big on items or information of value. I add information of value, but you're trying to fill a void in somebody's life or their day-to-day life and provide them with information. It's not always real estate information. So for instance, the newsletter we have going out, our next is part of it is a list of locally owned restaurants, so not chain restaurants, that do takeout, and it's all different fare. There's some Italian on there, there's some Mediterranean, things like that. So we're trying to give people information. I mean, in the past we've done a list of waterfalls, list of museums, list of hiking trails, things like that. So we're providing a lot more. We actually provide very little real estate information and try to give people information that's interesting. And my goal is I want to live on their refrigerator. So I want to provide information that's useful to them and their family. I've got one client who made a comment on Facebook that she has every newsletter we've sent out. She keeps them all in a binder so she can go back and look at them when she's got to go, wants to take her kids to go do something and spend time with them. So big thing focused on being genuine. I rarely, if ever, publish like how many awards I get. The only numbers we ever talk about is in my newsletters. There's a graphic on the back of every one of them that simply says, hey, here's how many houses we've sold this year. The last couple of years, it's like here's our average days on market, and here's our percentage of business that's referrals and past clients. I rarely, if ever, talk about any of the board awards I get from the board or anything like that. I do have a Facebook business page. Most of my clients choose to ignore that because my personal page, I think they find is more interesting. And I do some photography as an amateur photographer, travel a lot by motorcycle. Got a big 4,000 mile, 10-day, 12 state trip coming up next week. And they all know that. So I'm very real and genuine. I let people into that part of my life. And I think that's, for me, that helps me with my referral business. I stay away from politics and things like that. But it's really less business, more client, and more of you. Again, people want to do business with people that they like and they trust. Note Card Cafe is a good resource for personal handwritten notes. And they actually have a whole section on real estate. So I send out a lot of handwritten notes. I think we talked about that the other day, but Note Card Cafe is a fantastic resource when you're talking about real and genuine and something happens. Somebody calls you and they want to look at houses, and somebody called me the other day about doing a market analysis. Hung up the phone with them, immediately sent them a handwritten note. But Note Card Cafe is a great resource. And again, there's a tab on their page. Specifically for real estate cards, they're blank. You can write whatever you want in them. And you don't have to do anything fancy. A card I mailed out the other day just simply said, thanks for calling. I appreciate your time and consideration. Look forward to seeing you Thursday at 7 p.m. If you have any questions before then, call me. Be well, Harlan. Consistency is the big key. And this is the part where agents kind of fall down. They don't see immediate results, so they quit. And I miss purposeful. So the last P was purposeful. I am very purposeful in indirectly or directly asking for referrals and reminding people that that's what I thrive on. So I kind of do it in a subtle way. My tagline on all my stuff that goes out to past clients just simply says refer with confidence. We do have the number that we track, that we let them know how well we're doing with referrals. Call to actions or actionable taglines. You always want to include something, whether it's on your card, anything you're mailing out, your brochures for your houses. Find something that works for you and run with that. So, and be committed. You've got to be committed to the process and the production. So, this is the long game. This is what's going to keep you in business, kind of thing. So, do I change? So, just catching up on a couple questions. Do I change how I communicate with clients based on age? No, because I have so many. If you're talking about like newsletters and stuff, everybody gets the same one. In terms of communication, in terms of looking at houses and deals, I've got. I started in real estate. I was in the first real estate office in Monroe County that got a voicemail system. So I've been doing this way before the internet came into play, way before email started. We didn't take pictures of houses unless you had a scrapbook. There was no reason to take a picture of a house. So I had a cell phone that was the size of a walkie-talkie, a pager on my belt. So that's when I started. So communications changed. To answer Taylor's question, and I tell all my clients whatever works for them works for me. So I have a couple people that use Facebook Messenger. I get text messaging like crazy, phone calls and emails. Emails I struggle with because I just get bombed with emails, and most of them aren't from clients. Text messaging I like a lot. There are times, and there's a really good article that just came out this last week on, actually Brian Buffini wrote it, on when to pick up the phone and call somebody and when it's appropriate to text, kind of thing. So I think there's a lot of times people get text messages and it's not relative to their age. I certainly have older people or people my age that text a lot. But if somebody doesn't get a house, somebody writes an offer, they don't get the house, and you've got to deliver that news, the text message to me is not really appropriate. It's something I need to call, talk to them about, keep them encouraged, give them any feedback on the offer that I've got. So yeah, the way I communicate with some clients varies by age and their preferences, and that's a generational thing. It also changes with what message I've got to deliver. So if it's just, hey, I'll see you at 5 o'clock, that's great for text. If it's, hey, we didn't get this house and, we need to work harder on getting the next one, and here's some things we can work on with our next offer. So going back to consistency. So consistency is the key to success over time. This is long haul. This is like we talked about on Tuesday, this is the farming part. You're growing your garden, you're taking care of your farm, you're planting the seeds. You just can't plant the seeds.
Go right up to the computer. Just go right up to that desk.
Somebody could. So yeah, you just can't plant the seed, walk away from it, and expect it to grow itself. So, and that's again where I started in agents fail, and not just agents, but agents will do a just sold card, or they'll start a farm, a neighborhood farm, or they'll mail something out to past clients once or twice, and they don't see immediate results, so they let it go. Which means, one is you just wasted all that time and money on something that you're starting that you need to take care of over time. So mine didn't happen overnight, and very rarely does it. There are times where you'll do something. So for instance, we deliver our mums, and I'll get some referrals right away from that. But that's not the norm. It's just, again, this is the long haul stuff. So you need to maintain your devotion to it. So, and again, you can't expect a bountiful harvest when you haven't done the planning, you haven't taken care of your garden, you haven't weeded it, you haven't fertilized it, you haven't watered it. Next big thing, own that space. So we'll talk about things that I do, but I try to pick times and frequencies and programs where I kind of own that space. So I don't do Christmas cards. We chose to do Thanksgiving cards because nobody gets one. Nobody sends them out. If I mailed out Christmas cards, I'd be one of 20 or 30 that they get, and you're just kind of lost in the shuffle. I'm pretty sure I'm the only one who mails out Thanksgiving cards. Posty cards, POSTYCARDS is a great website. I think we've exhausted their better Thanksgiving cards, and may look for something different next year. But this year I think we're doing 350 of them, all handwritten. My assistant hates it. She's already started on it. Handwriting every envelope. I take every card, even though there's a pre-printed message. I write a personal message to every client, sign it. We stick them in the envelope, seal them, put a stamp on it. We don't do labels with stuff like that. So again, going back, we want it to be personal. So it's addressed to them. It's it's hand done. They don't know that we're doing 350. For all they know, we're doing 10. And they're lucky enough to get one. And again, going back to planning, we know this is coming. I ordered these cards back in like probably as early as May because they're cheaper. Again, we own that space. And I think when you're planning, those are good things to look for, like 4th of July. People aren't mailing out a lot of 4th of July personal stuff. That may be a good one. I don't completely abandon Christmas. Some of my A-plus people, my biggest referrers, so that last year I'll do something special for, but that's, usually 10 or 12 people. And again, with the person, looking for a personalized experience. And kind of speaks to handwriting cards and things like that. Strive to be unique and creative and to connect with your people. So whether it's, I know there's an agent at the office that works with, I don't know their name, but I do know because I've seen some of their marketing stuff is that, they work with shelter animals and stuff like that. So that's a connection that they share probably with a lot of people and can personalize. So this is the calendar workshop part. So if you guys have your blank calendars, we can talk about some things we do. 4th quarter for us. This is, this is the home stretch. This is where we get into what I call, this is our high touch part of the year. For a high yield 2021 or whatever the next year is. So this is where this is the big final push. This is why we do mums. We get the nice big ones. We get them when they're not fully bloomed yet, so they last a lot longer. We have a personal card that was printed. Says the fall market's here, and then on the back, a personalized message from me that's printed. And says refer with confidence, and the card is 3 by 5, and we got to pick up 150 of those, and then we drop them off at those clients' doors. So that's a big one. Those stick around for a while. So anybody knows anything about mums and flowers is they last a while. So I'm sitting on everybody's front porch for 2 or 3 weeks. We talked about the handwritten Thanksgiving cards, so another very high touch. We own that space, much like the mums. Other ideas, Christmas cards do work. We've done those before, and again, we're just planting all these seeds. And the Christmas stuff, again, we just limit that. That's just our personal thing to our best people. So January, February, we want to get out early. So I try to, this is the funny one, you don't want to do the New Year's hangover mail stuff. I mean, the first couple of years, the first couple of weeks of the year are kind of boring. People are recuperating from the holiday. They don't want to talk about anything. They don't want to go back to work. They don't want to go back to school. And they probably don't want to talk to you about selling a house. So I kind of we kind of let everybody settle into the new year and then try to kind of hit that 3rd week of January, no later than February 1st to get our first piece out. And usually that's a newsletter, and it's our year-end wrap-up, looking back at what we did, and this year will be to what we did in 2020, thanking everybody for their referrals, being very intent about that, sharing a lot of information, and and then looking for things they can do, why you're going into that time of year. So it's I think in the past we've called it cabin fever relievers and things like that, places they can go, whether it's take the kids to a museum. And those are all things that we've struggled with this year, kind of rethinking, because there's a lot of places you can't go, or very limited, or people just don't want to go. I don't even want to go to the grocery store. So, so we've had to think hard through some of that stuff. And swapping out the information. Again, that's why the one we've got coming out next are restaurants that do takeout service. February, like I mentioned, we've always done movie tickets. That's a bust this year. We're brainstorming ideas. We've thought about Delta Sonic. There are places like Delta Sonic you can set up, purchase things kind of like a corporate discount, like you buy 100 of them or 50 of them, you can get them a little bit cheaper. So that was one idea that came out. We've got a couple others floating around. March, April is like our fun one. We every year do a St. Patrick's Day card. So we have the card printed. We choose a different saying on the front of the card every year. We go out and buy up all the dollar lottery scratch-off tickets, and we include one or two in every card. We do that every year. And again, we get on Facebook a lot. I get a lot of messages going, "Hey, I won $5 or whatever." But that one's inexpensive. Generally we can hit almost everybody on our list. All 500 people, make sure everybody gets it, whether they're an A+, an A, a B, or a C. What else have we done? May, June, we kind of look back at the spring market. We put out our big list of, hey, here's a list of houses we've sold. Here's some events coming up. We would do a list of festivals that were coming up. Again, that kind of got blown up this year, and we had to rethink that. The other high touch thing we do in May and June, we take a list of all the people who closed on their houses this last year. So we'll take a list of all the buyers I had for 2020, and we'll deliver a brand new doormat to their house. So we get them for, I think, $12 or $15 a piece. We mail out a note card a week or two ahead of time going, hey, this next week you're going to come home and there'll be a nice new doormat there. And we drop those off. So we do that for all our previous year buyers, again, assuming they're A+, and then letting the sifting process kind of figure out where they fall on the list as we make adjustments. So July and August, we actually try to do nothing. So I'll kind of give ourselves a break. I mean, traditionally, this year being the exception because we kind of had a delayed market, but generally people are on vacation, kids are getting ready to go back to school. Generally speaking, historically, looking back, July and August can be our slowest 2 months. Then we try to give ourselves a break and then get right back at it in September. So September, October, do another newsletter. We do the mums, which we've talked about repeatedly. November, December, we do the Thanksgiving cards. Just simply, I like to own that space. I like to be the only card they're getting rather than the pile of 20 cards they're getting. I have to look at your note sheet. I got to look at my note sheet. Elements of a good newsletter, if you do them. And there are times we don't do a full-blown newsletter. We just do a larger postcard, especially if we're sending something out, like maybe we're just sending out something about festivals coming up, and we're not constantly beating them up with real estate. We kind of tone down some of the real estate. But elements, that are in our newsletters are recent sales, sale pending, new listings we've got coming up. I've got the Braddock Point Lighthouse coming up for sale. We'll do a special thing about that. We always include a referral request. It's on my business card. It's on a postcard. It's on every newsletter. It's even on the mums we're delivering. With the little cards on the back of it is that tagline, refer with confidence. The other thing we ask for is, or we have a section in our newsletter is, and it's even on my website, it's asking for out-of-state referrals. Meaning, I don't have a license in Texas, but I've had to find agents in Texas, kind of thing. So this year I've had clients going to Florida. I've had 3 clients go to Colorado, 2 to Tennessee, and another one thinking about North Carolina that I met with yesterday. So what I spoke to them about yesterday was, let me know where you're thinking about settling. I'll get on the phone, interview some agents, find a good agent for you. It's about an hour's worth of work to find a good agent. and then talk to that agent, share the information, and get a 25% referral fee. So I just got a $1,200 check from an agent in Arkansas. In Little Rock, I have a client here whose mother passed away, had to sell the house in Little Rock, Arkansas. That's in my newsletter that, hey, if you need help out of state, I'm a good resource. And this kind of goes back to, filling that void that we're talking about, becoming a resource for people and providing information of value. So I get a $1,200 check for 30 minutes worth of work. There's not a lot of agents in Little Rock, Arkansas. So, so that there's been years where I've made, $15,000 to $20,000 off of out-of-state referrals. And I think we'll probably see a lot of that in New York as people kind of leave and migrate. Family to-do activities, local information, just there's a ton of good information. There's some pages on Facebook devoted solely to things like day trips around Rochester, and we grab the information, we share it, we just reformat it, get it out to our people. So real estate market updates. So I do have, I think we talked about the other day, I've got 2 neighborhoods that are geographic neighborhoods that I farm, geographical farms rather than past clients. We provide them those 2 areas. I've done it for 25 years. Part of my synergistic approach where I'm working 2 or 3 different things to generate business all the time. But that's one that I'm heavily vested in. Year end coming up. So February 1, they'll get a list of all the houses that sold in the neighborhood this last year, and the address, list price, sale price, days on market. Then I make a list, or I update the list of all the houses I've sold in their neighborhood for the last 20 something years. Give them average numbers, kind of things like that. Actually, there's a chart on there tracking like the last 10 years worth of sales, and how the sale price has gone up or down. Personal touch and insight. So yeah, and I do this a lot on Facebook. I did a final walkthrough with a client. They're friends with me on Facebook. They're a referral from their parents and things like that. But, they asked me about the trip I have coming up. So I just try to connect with people on that personal level. And I allow, or actually invite my clients in on my personal page. And I almost somewhat abandoned my business page. It's there, but I'm not as active, and more people would rather be on my personal one than my business one. Things to keep in mind. High touch is just a big thing. Yeah. Kind of getting belly with people. Whether you do a client event, whether you're dropping off moms and you choose to knock on the door to see if you can catch them at home. Just, it's that out of sight, out of mind concept. You've got to be visible for people to kind of remember and be relevant. Items of value. We talked about information you give people. It doesn't necessarily have to be real estate. We give very little real estate information, a lot of like what we'd like to think is valuable information, things to do, places to go, things to see. We'll talk about receiving referrals. And if you guys, so before I get off, I'll shoot you my email address. If you guys want to email me, I will shoot you a list of 8 things to do when you immediately when you receive a referral. But receiving referrals, it is very important to go back to those people, thank them personally, whoever you got the referral from. And I do that with a phone call. I do that with a handwritten note. And then I do that, in that handwritten note, mail them a gift card, usually to a restaurant or something like that. You don't want to wait until the referral actually pans out or closes, because it may never, and that's okay. You're rewarding that behavior. So you're not rewarding the fact that you got a check. You're rewarding the fact that they were thoughtful and referred their friend to them. So the house I just recently closed, I got a past client that was on jury duty. somebody she's doing jury duty with has to sell property for an estate. And, these are two complete strangers, never met before. She gives me the referral. I instantly called her, thanked her, sent her a handwritten note. 10 minutes later, included a dinner certificate, just rewarding that behavior. And then I ended up, I did get the listing, I did close. So just kind of the cost of doing business, but you want to reward the behavior, not the outcome necessarily. So let me throw my email in here before I forget. And then I have this written up. 8 things to do when you get a referral. If you want that, send that, and I'll probably send over some other links and cool stuff. So we touched based on it the other day, and I'll kind of reiterate it today about separating yourself from the competition. And this is part of the conversation I had with the agent the other day, who said, I don't have a big list. I don't have a big sphere of influence, and it doesn't matter. I said, if you got 10 people, you have to start investing in those 10 people. You have to plant those 10 seeds. You have to nourish those 10 seeds. You have to also have a unique value proposition that we talked about the other day, something that's unique to you. My background education's in marketing, so I'm a big listing agent, and I try to bring more to the table on that and a lot of insight. Provide free staging and professional photography and things like that. So like I told her, having a contract or a listing agreement, knowing how to fill out the blanks, what to put where, how to write it. There's not a lot of difference between agents. Nobody can fill out the blanks better than somebody else. I suppose they could write neater, print neater, and do it faster, quicker, better. But it's just not enough. So your unique value proposition is what to work on. And I think everybody has that. There's a great book that just came out called The Hero Effect by Kevin Brown. I read to you the other day. I'm going to read to you again. Because it really, and I just heard this for the first time probably 6 weeks ago. So Kevin Brown was a speaker, a motivational speaker, was asked to put together a talk on heroes. And it sent him down a journey as to what is a hero. And he kind of kept thinking about that. And there's a really great podcast from Brian Buffini. And if you email me, I'll send you that link as well. So Kevin Brown goes through this process, and the traditional definition of a hero is kind of always been ordinary people doing something extraordinary, kind of thing. And that's always, always been the kind of the classic definition. That he changes it after a lot of thought, and to him comes up with the definition that a hero is an extraordinary person who chooses not to be ordinary. So Kevin's premise is that we're all born with extraordinary or unique gift or talent, and I think that's very true. So if you look at my team that I have, I do what I do. I'm the rainmaker. I've got the business. I have all these relationships. I hate paperwork. I'm not good at it. I'm good at creating it. I'm good at creating piles of paperwork. I have an assistant who in their next life would be a librarian. She loves paperwork. She loved putting pieces of the puzzle together. During COVID-19 and the shutdown, her Facebook page was full of, tables in her house putting puzzles together, which would drive me crazy. My wife, who's my transaction coordinator, fantastic at follow-up. Did mortgages for a while, 15, 20 years ago, knows the business, but loves getting on loves that follow-up process, making sure we get mortgage commitments, making sure we get attorney approvals, making sure things are in place. And I'm good at the marketing and then pushing things out and getting listings. So Kevin writes in his book, and It's called the hero effect. It's you can read it in a day. So he puts, a hero is an extraordinary person who chooses not to be ordinary. If you buy into the notion that everybody was born extraordinary, then you must concede that ordinary thinking is a learned behavior, a conditioned response based on the voices in our head. You've been convinced of your unworthiness. Your averageness shows up in the way you talk to yourself and to others. You become stuck thinking, I'm not good enough, it will never work out, it just wasn't meant to be, or my favorite, I am who I am. No, you're not. You're not who you decide to be. You are who you decide to become. And it begins with understanding and believing that you were born extraordinary. You have become ordinary. If you become ordinary, it'll be your choice. So that's a lot to think about. And it's hard as, salespeople. We're off on our own. We deal with a lot of rejection. And it's hard in a business where everybody has the same tools to work with to kind of figure out how we're going to differentiate or separate ourselves. But it's a fantastic thought. And I truly believe we're all born uniquely gifted. What you bring to the table and how you work with and communicate your clients will be completely different than the way I do it. I can give you all these tools, and the way you adopt them, these aren't unique to me. These are things that I've picked up from other people. To me, there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that's out there has been out there. It's just taking it and making it better. So all these things are things other people have done. I look at it and I make it my own. I adopt it. I change it. I make it better, or I make it fit into my personality and the way we do things. So hopefully that all makes sense. Covered a lot of ground. I hope you make good use of these calendars. I really, really, really would encourage you to this is September. You have September, October, November, and December to work with to really, push information, reach out and touch people, high touch, high impact kind of stuff. So be very deliberate and personable. Questions anybody has? I know we covered a ton of ground, a lot of stuff. Hoping this helps you kind of set up for future success. It's a great tool. Out of all the ways I've done things, this has been the best. Newsletters, I'm fortunate to be at the point, they have a graphic designer and we've got templates and things like that. There are newsletters you can purchase in quantities that they'll personalize and put your picture on. I started that way. I didn't have the time, didn't have the knowledge, didn't have the resources to kind of design and put my own together. And that's okay to start out with generic stuff, but you've got to do something. So it doesn't have to be perfect. Brian Buffini is very big, and I'm habitually the worst at I'm a perfectionist, so I overthink things, and I'll sit there and kind of paralyze myself. But Brian Buffini is like, don't worry about it being perfect. Doesn't have to be the best newsletter. Just get it out, kind of thing. Do something. So hopefully that's all helpful. You guys have my email. I will email you that bonus material, the 8 things you must do when you get a referral. I'll probably include a couple other links to Brian Buffini's podcast, especially his interview with Kevin Brown and the Hero Effect. That's a fantastic 30-minute podcast. It's a great story, and there's a lot of really good insight in that story. That you can immediately apply to your real estate business and your relationships. So love teaching this class. Actually, I'm going to go back and rewrite Foundations 1. But hopefully this was helpful. Feel free to call me. Feel free to email me if you have questions. You want me to look at stuff, you want to run an idea by me, I'm always here to help. So Hope you guys have a fantastic holiday weekend.
Thank you.
You're welcome.